It's my first ride since the big one. So I thought I'd answer, what have I chosen to? I always do this when I'm on a hill. I thought I'd answer some of your questions about it. So the first one is, hang on, let me get on the flat bit. How did you not get saddle sores? Did you get any pain? Saddle sores, no, I didn't. I think because I've got my bike fit pretty dialed in, that was fine. Although I did get a little bit of, I guess, tenderness, how you want to call it, because I had lower gearing, and that meant that on the climbs I was sat down a lot more than I would have normally been. And I think that just caused a little bit of, I don't know, more friction. So that was the only thing really, and it's fine now. The other thing was my Achilles. That was fine until around 800k, and then it just started, it wasn't a pain, it was just kind of a niggle. And so I messaged Phil, my physio, and asked him if he thought it was safe to carry on. He's like, yeah, I think you'll be fine. And so yeah, that was fine. When I got back, I just iced it, and yeah, it's fine. The only other thing that I had, which I've never had before, was, and I've still got it a little bit, is like a numbness, like a tingling in my fingers, not in my feet, just in my fingers and my hands. And I think that's from like carpal tunnel, from basically pressing on a nerve for that amount of time. But yeah, it's feeling better, and I think a lot of other people have that as well. But yeah, I'm gonna look into a little bit more of that to prevent it in the future. What food did I eat? I basically had the same simple stuff that I have on like all my long rides. So that is smoothies, juice, bread and crisps, and then sweeties, so like just vegan gummy sweets. Oh yeah, apart from those sausage rolls, that was, oh, and then the pot noodle at the end of each segment, I guess. Someone also asked me about GRX, and GRX, the one that I've got, is a 4630 chain rings at the front, which is just so good for just loads of hills, because it means that you're never really, like my legs didn't really get tired. Do you know, like when you've done a load of hills and I don't know, your quads and everything just feels sore? I never had that. Also, my hips didn't get sore, which I've just realised I didn't know. In the past, my hips have got sore on very big climbing days, but yeah, looked a treat. How did you build up the distance and the training? So basically, I've done like endurance for years, and this year specifically, I just started off I did a 200, then I did a 300, like a really hilly one, and then I did a 300 down to London with a day in between, and then rode back. So that was like 2 300s with a day in the middle. And then I did a 600, which was a really hilly 600, which would replicate the first 2 days of All Points North elevation wise. And yeah, that is basically how I built up the distance. It's just slowly, gradually, and then doing back-to-back days. So because this is going to be 3 days back-to-back, I then did like 3 back-to-back days. So I did the 600, and then I think I just did 3 back-to-back days. I can't remember what the distances were, but they weren't anywhere near as much as what All Points North was. But yeah, they were just 3. I think it's just getting your body used to doing a big day and then getting back up and getting back on the bike. Like that's the trick really. How do you prep your bike or kit before the event? So I was eliminating every possible chance that I was going to have a mechanical. So I just basically had a full service of my bike. So I changed, I got the cables all changed. I had a new crank, new cassette, new chain, because I just wanted to, I guess, eliminate every possible, new brake pads. So I just basically wanted to eliminate any possibility that I had for a mechanical. So if anything else stopped me from doing it, it wasn't going to be the bike. So that is how I prepped. How did you plan how much you were going to sleep? So this is the first time I've ever done anything, I guess, this long. But on the 600, I slept for 4 hours. I think it was like 3.5, 4 hours. And I was like, oh, I could do similar on this. So I think I slept for 3 hours. And then I just basically had like cat naps in the day. But I guess the main thing is everyone is different, and I really banked a lot of sleep leading up to it, just so that I could hopefully not be as tired. But oh god, that's a bloody big truck. Woo, that's a big boy. So yeah, I think the main thing is everybody's different and everyone needs different amounts of sleep. But for me, like, I was always gonna sleep if I was tired. and I was never going to push past being too tired, because I just don't think, yeah, it's not for me. I wanted to get around safely, and so having enough sleep was important. Although this week after like doing it, I've slept so much. I didn't realize how much it would take it out of me. So yeah, I've just been catching up on the old sleep. So planning the route, I spent a lot of time planning the route, doing different options of best way to go, and for me I went clockwise, which would mean that I did the hilliest sections first, because I wanted to do that when I was like most excited and my legs were like the freshest, so that on the way back I could have that lovely flat road. So yeah, I planned it clockwise, and I planned it on Ride with GPS, only because I feel like that is really good for really long distances. And you can also, it's almost like you can use, it's like got Google Maps integrated into it, so you could zoom in and see where like all the food stops and stuff were, and yeah, and also to see what the roads were like. So if you saw like an A road, you're like, oh, is it like a really busy A road, or is it one that you could ride on safely? So I used that a lot, just to make sure that every road that I went on was like safe. I think I'm actually going to go back and answer the questions at home, because it's quite cold and it's quite windy. That's why I'm sheltering behind this wall. So yeah, I'll go back home and answer the rest there. How do you use power data on these types of rides? I didn't use a power meter on this one, but because I've used a power meter for years, I kind of know what I can do all day. So yeah, I didn't use one on this ride. When you said you were listening to your favourite Arctic Monkeys album, what album was it? Of course, whatever people say, that's what I'm not. And then my other two favourites, I'm sure you want to know. If you don't, I'm going to tell you anyway, are Suck It In Sea and AM. I think AM is my second favourite. But yeah, let me know what your favourite ones are, because I just love Arctic Monkeys. What prep did go into it, like your route and the shops? Like how many kilometres would you plan them in, or was it a bit more ad hoc? No. I actually really like planning routes, and so I spent a lot of time planning around shops. So basically what I would do is I'd make sure that there was kind of a shop or somewhere to get food or just to top up my water every like 150k. And yeah, that is what I did. The first night I couldn't, because I think because I was going into the Dales and then up to the lakes, there was nothing going to be open, so I had to take enough food and water for basically the whole night. But after that, yeah, every 150k. And then I saved them. I'll show you now. I saved them all into my notes in my phone. So I had the ones in red are like the checkpoints, and then all the other ones, so what kilometre they were and the name of the shop and the opening times. That is really important. So make sure if you're going to do this or do a long route, you check the opening time so that you know what's going to be open when you're going to be passing through. How does doing 1,000 kilometres differ in terms of management or prep for a 600? I think the only thing is that I knew I would be riding in the dark a lot more, so I took my Dynamo Light, which is the Exposure Revo, which is amazing, because on a 600 you're just going to ride through basically one night, and this was going to be multiple. So yeah, I just basically took a Dynamo. How do you charge GPS? Also, do you take a tent or a tarp? So GPS, I have the Garmin Edge 1030 Plus, and the battery on it is insanely good. So I think I probably could have done like probably 2/3 of it on one charge. But then I did charge it when I got to wherever I stayed for those few hours. I just charged it up for a couple of hours and it was fine. Did I take a tent or a tarp? No, I took an emergency bivvy just in case I thought if I was going to get cold or if I couldn't find accommodation, I could just, wrap up in my emergency bivvy. Tips riding in the dark, please. Techniques, strategies, etc. Make sure you're visible. So I had like my high vis like harness on, and then I also had like my exposure like dynamo. So I had that dynamo's got like the front and the back. So it's got like obviously the white front light on the front and then the red rear. Then it also had an extra one. I had the exposure trace on the front, and I think I had the exposure blaze on the back because it's got a really good battery in it. And so I just always made sure that I was visible. I think the other thing is practicing it, so not to go on an event and never have ridden in the dark before, because it is a bit, I don't know, it is a bit weird, but you do get used to it. So, and then the other thing is not riding outside of what you're comfortable with. So there's no point like bombing down a descent. I know it sounds like goes without saying, but I think a lot of people try and keep up the same speed, and it's inevitable, but when you can't see as much, you're going to be a little bit more cautious and not ride as fast. So don't worry about speed. I don't ever worry about speed anyway, but specifically not at night. You just do what you can do to be safe on the road. Anything about hotel research, this is stressing so many people, myself included. So on All Points North, you can't pre-book any accommodation. You can only book for that night's stay. So if it's Saturday, you can only book Saturday night. And so as part of my prep for this, when I was doing all like my prep for like supermarkets and places to eat, I had a rough idea of where I wanted to stop, and then just got a list of as many different places or possibilities that I could stay, and other contact numbers and rough price of what they were going to be, because you just never know, like things can get booked up, and this was a bank holiday weekend, so you just don't know where's going to be booked. So I found quite a few. So it's booking.com is a really good option, but it's also not just looking at the main hotel chain, so looking at bed and breakfasts, at campsites, at hostels. So yeah, just trying to have a few different options, and also make sure you take a lock with you, because there aren't really many hotels which will let you take your bike in the room. What would you change or do differently next time? I don't think there's anything that I would change. Like, I think my setup was good, everything. There was nothing that I was like, oh, I wish I'd taken that with me. There wasn't anything of that. I think the only thing that I would try and do differently is, after that first 24 hours, make sure I sleep for a few hours. I was just too excited, I couldn't sleep. So I don't know, maybe I'll take an eye mask or something just to like help me sleep. A lot of questions about my kit, so I'm gonna do a whole video of like my kit setup, where I put everything on the bike, what I carried. So yeah, that'll be coming up later this week as well. I'm gonna go and eat, because that's one other thing. No one asked actually that question, but I'm gonna share it anyway. Since the ride, I have been I just can't stop eating. I'm just so hungry all the time. So yesterday I had like a whole sourdough like bloomer roll, like one like that, not like a little singular one. It was like a big one. So yeah, I've just been eating and sleeping. So yeah, I'll see you later on this week for another video. Goodbye, farewell, bye. So hi.
Katie.
Oh, hello. You all right?
Yeah. Not seen you since the coast to coast.
So the training for it, how did I build up? Jesus Christ.